Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AP Daily Practice Session. This is video number 8. My name is Todd Beach. I teach at Eastview High School in Apple Valley, Minnesota.
And I'm Katie Lancey. I teach at Coral Gables Senior High School in Miami, Florida. And today we are talking about the document-based question.
It counts for 25% of your total exam score. So students are presented with 7 documents that offer various perspectives on, that's what a DBQ is. And then you are going to read those and assess the written or quantitative or visual materials. There will be one document that is a visual of some kind. It will be either an image or a data set. Then you're going to use that to develop an argument, and then you're supporting that argument using the evidence that we're providing for you. The document-based question will focus on topics from 1600 to 2001. So they'll pick a topic and it will be within that particular framing. And again, this is video 2. So if you want to see examples for thesis and contextualization, please take a look at video 7. This is part 2, rather, video number 8 that we're on right now. Katie?
Yep, so that was the previous video was the parts A and B of the rubric. Today we're going to look at C and D. We're starting here today with evidence, and there's actually 3 potential points for evidence in the DBQ. You can see the first part is we can get evidence from the documents, and you can either have 1 or 2 points there. The first kind of low bar point uses the content of at least 3 documents to address the topic, but we're really looking for the 2 points for evidence, hoping to support an argument in response to the prompt using at least 4 of the documents. That's a new number this year, 4 documents clearly supporting an argument. We also have a point for evidence beyond the documents. We're going to bring in at least 1 additional piece of specific historical evidence that is relevant to an argument in response to the prompt and not already found in the documents. So very important.
For the D category, this is the analysis and reasoning. And so for at least 2 documents, this is going to be what we call the D1 point. You need to explain how or why that document's point of view or purpose or historical situation or audience is relevant to the argument. Historians call this sourcing. That is, you're going to source the document. So don't just tell us what the document says, but tell us how that document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience is relevant to the argument about the prompt in at least 2 documents. And we'll show you an example of that.
And then there is a second point under analysis and reasoning, the complexity point for a student to demonstrate a complex understanding of the historical development that is the focus of the prompt through sophisticated argumentation and/or effective use of evidence. And you can see there's multiple ways that students are able to do this. They can explain multiple themes or perspectives. They can explain multiple causes or effects or similarities or differences or continuities or changes. They can explain both cause and effect, or both similarity and difference, or continuity and change. And they can also explain relevant and insightful connections within and across periods or geographical areas. And these connections should relate to the argument that responds to the prompt.
Continuing then with ways that you can earn the complexity point. Some things that have been added to the rubric. There are lots of paths here, so think about how you want to do this. A response can demonstrate complex understanding through effective use of evidence. And this year they're saying you can do that effectively using 7 documents to support an argument that responds to the prompt. So there are 7 documents and you need to get 4 for document usage. But if you're good at using the documents and making them a part of the argument, you can use all 7, and that's a path to complexity. Or you can explain how the point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience in at least 4 documents supports an argument that responds to the prompt. So you're required to do 2 to earn the sourcing point. And if you do 2 more, or 4 total, that is a path to complexity. Or you can use the documents and evidence beyond documents effectively to demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of different perspectives relevant to the prompt. And so this gives you a lot of creativity and other ways that you can go at that argument, and you can bring in additional outside evidence if you want to really form the argument and to bolster that sophisticated argument that you might want to make as a point to complexity.
Yeah, lots of paths to complexity this year. Remembering that this complexity needs to be a part of the argument. It doesn't have to be woven throughout the entire essay, but it has to be more than just a phrase or a reference. All right, Todd, make the source happy.
One of the strategies that Katie and I like is, and your teacher may have other acronyms they use. HIPPO is often used, but we like to say, make that source happy. So when using documents as evidence, it's suggested you have to have attribution and an in-text citation. Those aren't have-tos, but we suggest you do that because that's what good writers do. But we also want to make the source happy. So introduce the source using attribution stems like according to, or the statement issued by, or the author's name shared their perspective. These are stems that get you into that without saying, oh, doc 1, doc 2, doc 3. That's appreciated, but a better way to do this, because you're moving on to becoming even more sophisticated writers, is to use those attribution stems. Then briefly describe the contents of the source. Please don't quote the source. Readers know what the sources say, they can read, and they want you to summarize the contents of the source. And then make the source happy. That acronym stands for the historical situation, or talk about the audience, or talk about the purpose, or talk about the point of view or positionality of the author. And then most importantly, why is this relevant to the argument you're making? The why is important. Make the source happy. Then we suggest that you conclude the sourcing by including that document number in a parenthetical. It just really helps the reader. It isn't required, but it helps the reader. And I think it helps you too, saying, yep, that's where I used that particular document. And it's just kind of a nice way to put it, punctuation mark that that's what you were trying to do.
Yeah, and I think it's important. None of these are necessarily the parentheses is not required, but as readers, Todd and I will tell you, I think it's really, when students use it, students are organized and they know what documents they've used. I think it's really helpful. All right, so using the documents as evidence, we're going to show you an example. We obviously are looking for students to get those 2 points, that they're supporting an argument in response to the prompt using at least 4 documents in their DBQ. If you have a look at our last video where we did context and thesis, we were looking at the 2023 DBQ on the Haitian Revolution, and we're continuing that now. We really like the structure of starting with a topic sentence. You can see here that the student has done that in blue, and then they have gone on after this and they have used the content of the document here specifically to support their argument. They're talking about document 5 and they're describing what the document's about in their own words. And they're concluding by bringing that document back again specifically to the argument in green. So the student has done a really nice job of using the content of the document to support an argument that was very clearly articulated at the beginning of the paragraph and then connected again, which is a great best practice at the end to what their argument was. So we really like this structure for students to use documents in this way.
So this is about evidence beyond the documents. This is an additional point that can be earned. Use at least one additional piece of specific evidence beyond that found in the documents that's relevant to an argument about the prompt. So there's the same sample that Katie read to you in the last paragraph, but in this pink, you're going to see we've highlighted where the response has evidence beyond the document, and they're using this to support or advance the argument that they were making. You can pause the video here, read all of those samples if you wish, but it's just really nicely placed. It's a really clean sample that they placed right in there.
Yep, it is. It's really great. Okay, so sourcing, making the document happy. We want to show you the structure on how we really like for you to do this. And we start off again with the same idea of having a topic sentence. This is really important for making sure you're doing the tasks on the DBQ and just being good writers. And so in the blue, you can see that this sample has shown the argument that the student is making, followed by, again, the content of the document used there. And then moving on, and I'm going to go ahead and read it to you, that the point of view reflects his position as a Haitian himself and his desire to see his fellow citizens free from the bonds of slavery. This document thus demonstrates his motivations to lead the Haitian Revolution, a desire to see his people free, and a desire to see Enlightenment ideas such as liberty and inalienable rights become a reality to Haitians. So in the analysis for point of view at the end, the student has also brought this back to the argument. It's a really nice example for point of view, well explained and definitely part of the argument. So really nicely done.
This next sample is again from the same response, but now this is a different part, and they're going to work on sourcing again. And so in the blue, you see the topic sentence is established there. The purple is with the content of the document that's used to support the argument. They've given us a summary of that. And then make the source happy. They're choosing audience here. And it states, it's in that kind of orangish color. Since Papillon and Bisson's intended audience of this letter was to French governmental representatives, their plea to outlaw such terrible mistreatment, like taking away from the Haitians time off and refusing to help when the Haitians were sick, also makes sense. Thus, this is the why part. Why is this relevant? Thus, from even a French point of view, the slave trade seems a plausible and sensible reason for the Haitian Revolution, as the French government had made an effort thus far to curb mistreatment and how those circumstances could have motivated revolution. That's really thoughtful. The student has done a really nice job there of giving us this audience and the why. That's a really clean sample, really nicely done. And you're welcome to pause the video and kind of read through it and think through it yourself as well.
And I'm really glad that you emphasized the why, Todd, because the rubric also clearly says that the student has to go beyond simply identifying who the audience was or what the purpose was. And I think a lot of students fall short when they don't have some component of that why. That's why I like happy. So complexity, again, the D2 point, there's a lot of ways that students are able to show complexity. Students can analyze multiple variables. An example in this DBQ was how rebel leaders sought to end abuses of slavery and used Enlightenment ideas to appeal to Europeans. That was nuance. Another example was constructing an argument that explores the conflict between Enlightenment ideas and ideas about the supposed inferiority of non-European races. They could explain relevant, insightful connections by constructing an argument that explains how the isolation of Haiti after the revolution challenges the ideas of the Enlightenment. And they could corroborate multiple perspectives, such as exploring how religious beliefs motivated European abolitionists and Haitian revolutionaries. So you can stop and read these examples. These were all specific examples for this DBQ, and we had more of a general list earlier in the video. And then, of course, this year things are a little different.
So additional ways, thanks, Katie, that you can earn complexity in the DBQ. Remember, you can effectively use all 7 documents to support an argument that responds to the prompt. That's another path. Or you could explain how that point of view, purpose, historical situation, and our audience for at least 4 documents. Make the source happy 4 times. That in an argument that responds to the prompt is another path. Or using the documents and evidence beyond the documents effectively to demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of different perspectives relevant to the prompt. So that's another path. This understanding has to be part of the argument, and it can be demonstrated in any part of the response, but it has to be more than just a phrase or reference. It doesn't have to be woven through the entire response. It can be a separate paragraph. But either way, it has to be more than merely a phrase or reference. It has to be very intentional on the student's part to earn that complexity point.
All right, I hope you have found this helpful. Feel free to go back and watch any of the other videos if you need a little refresher, and good luck on the exam.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.